Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is J.R. Moore coming to you live from deep in the mountains of the Missouri Ozarks on Monday, the 3rd of August. We're visiting with Mr. Dane Wigington. Dane, you were a mild-mannered engineer just doing your thing and minding your own business 10 years ago, and you woke up to some very disturbing information that's changed your life. It's become, as best I can tell, your full-time occupation, hasn't it, sir?
It is. It's about a 70-plus hour a week, all year long mission. Again, it's if we can't breathe without sucking this stuff in, it's killing everything. And how does one not face this issue? And ignoring it, we do so at our own peril. And let me give a couple of statistics to back that up. The species extinction rate today is thought to be approaching 300 a day. From 200, which is already confirmed. We're now likely approaching 300. That's 300 species of plant, animal, and insect going extinct every single day. We're in the 6th great mass extinction now. And to put this in perspective of how the bugs are doing, in Shasta, Siskiyou counties in Northern California, the aquatic and terrestrial insect life, as measured by Forest Service biologists, whom I know, has declined 90% in the last 10 years. 90. How much longer are we going to be here? Again, this is the greatest assault against life on Earth ever launched by the human race, and that's something that's gone under the radar so long. It's done cataclysmic damage already. Simply something that we must deal with, and all of us can help. Again, people underestimate their own power, their own ability to make a difference, and any one of your listeners could be the final grain of rice, if you will, that tilts the scale. And everybody is needed, and critical mass will come quickly if everybody participates.
Well, it's a huge, huge task, to say the least, and something we all need to become aware of and get involved in.
Again, if one person successfully conveyed the message to 2 at the beginning of a 30-day month, those 2 to 2 each the second day, and so on, it's 5.5 million at the end of 30 days. And when people are challenged, and they will be, that this is not reality, respond with this. We have film footage of these tankers spraying at altitude, nozzles visible, turning on and off. That's the end of the argument. We have lab tests from around the globe. We have a mountain of data. I could go on and on and on. Those who deny this is happening are simply in denial, and perhaps there's nothing you can do for those people but plant the seed and walk on. But many people are waking up. They know the weather is horribly wrong. They realize something radical is happening. And sometimes it doesn't take much to wake them up. So if we all engage in that, again, we could even now at this late hour change the course of the Titanic. We're not going to end up where we would like to be, but we could still salvage the planet's ability to support life. And we have an obligation to our children to try to reach that end.
Dane, we have one of your big fans. Mr. Steve O'Neill is a nuclear scientist. Steve O'Neill, good morning, and what question do you have for Mr. Wigington?
Good morning, John, and Dane. Such a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you, Steve.
Actually, of course, naturally, I have a number of questions. What the status of the methane class rate potential is and the time frame. I don't believe we've probably been able to get enough scientific expertise on that subject to be precise. The interesting question is what the thermodynamic potential is. We know what the methane will do once it gets into the atmosphere, and the feedback mechanism is really the serious concern. The question of the final solution or ultimate resolution of the climate methane catastrophe, because that they've lost control of it, it would appear, and that their attempts to step up their efforts with the aerosol spraying and electromagnetic driving of the atmosphere. It appears that they reversed it briefly in the around 2005 to 7 time frame, but they're failing. Those are the 2 areas, the primary areas of concern I'm thinking about right now.
I don't know if you're referring to Project Lucy or Alamo, what they appear to be already doing to try to mitigate the methane, which is yet another layer of destruction on top of what they've already done. But all your assessments are exactly on target. Yes, as when the ice was headed toward collapse in 2007, the programs were ramped up even more, and this temporary cooling effect, which I spoke of earlier, they see it as success, even if the overall damage far exceeds any perceived benefit, and the planet's full response we can't know, because they've been at this for so many decades. At this point, no one can know the exact climate rebound that we're going to experience and what the planet would do to try to cool itself. But the ice loss in 2007, yes, was reversed to the point where the climate scientists were scratching their heads by 2009 trying to figure out why the extent expanded with increasingly warm oceans, increasingly warmer planet overall. How did this happen? So the military-industrial complex sees this as quote-unquote success. And on the methane, we've seen some counts as high as 3,000 ppb over the Arctic, 2,970 or 80 parts per billion. And to put that into context, the planet has not experienced over 700 ppb for at least the last million years. We're in completely uncharted territory, feeding itself, as Steve correctly said. Lost control, I believe that's a very accurate assessment. Any control they thought they had was really delusional. It's really a disruption to the system, but in their kind of thinking, they had control and that they were able to mitigate one symptom in one region while worsening the overall picture dramatically. So, but they see that as success, but they have even lost that much control at this point. And on the methane, for your listeners, John, Project Lucy, those are acronyms, and Project Alamo, the use of these ionosphere heaters I mentioned earlier with opposing frequencies to microwave the atmosphere in the desperate attempt to molecularly degrade this methane, these programs appear to be going on now. So it's just heaping, again, one layer of insanity on top of another on top of another. It's like the pharmaceutical cure for the planet. Take this for that ailment. By the way, it causes 30 other things that you have to take, another handful of pills for, and the cycle goes on. I hope that makes some sense.
Absolutely. Dane, there's so many interesting things to discuss, in particular the insanity of the programs as we've really going to illuminate at this point, is due to the fact that they have an insane objective for mankind itself, and that really, if we have to dig deeper into the true agenda of the people who run the world, and this leads into some very obtuse discussions about what's really going on. And William Cooper, of course, got into this. And the subject matter gets beyond the scope of this broadcast, because most people are not ready to hear the truth of what's really going on and why.
In regard, your assessment is correct about what people are able to or willing to digest, and I've tried to keep things on a level that is very discernible for people. They can understand the gravity of having their breathable air column contaminated completely, their waters, their soils, the protective layers of the atmosphere decimated, their weather disrupted. And once people accept the fact that this is going on, those that are capable and strong enough and willing will start to look at other aspects of this issue. For example, the eugenics aspect, which it's hard to argue at this point. We have people like Rockefeller stating on the record 95% of the population needs to go. We have Brzezinski, the advisor to many administrations, stating on the record that with current technology it's much easier to eliminate 1 million people than it is to control them. And so we have a lot of the power structure stating on the record certain aspects that are hard to keep out of this equation. But aside from that, initially for people it's easier for them to palate the fact that this is they want to believe that their government's doing something benevolent or for the common good, which couldn't be further from the truth in this case. But once they're awakened to the climate engineering issue that's happening, it's contaminating their air, their children's bodies, so forth. Once they awaken to that, again, those that are capable will find their way further into the rabbit hole, if you will.
Before we go any farther, Dane, you have a one-day conference coming up. We need to get the word out on that so people can know about it and attend if they choose to.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that, John. In Northern California, Friday night, August 14th, we have a very large auditorium, seats a little under 1,100. We have some government scientists, former government scientists showing up, former Forest Service, California Department of Fish and Game, former military weather observer. We have the North State neurologist. He's a primary neurologist, in fact, very courageous man, taking a lot of heat for standing up, but his patients are becoming cognitively dysfunctional, and he's understandably extremely concerned. He knows about the aluminum issue, and by the way, on the aluminum issue, and I'm not sure, John or Tim or Steve, if you guys have seen the reports from about 6 weeks ago that the bee colony collapse disorder, it's now known and proven in peer-reviewed study that the bees are packed full of aluminum, exactly what we have told the beekeepers for a number of years. Beekeepers,
yes.
Some of the head people in the country who would not listen to us, who are trained like everyone else in academia to only recognize what they are told is reality, not what they use their sense of reason to determine is reality. So they ignored us on this issue, but we now have a study to prove that bees are being detected with as much as 70 times more aluminum in them than what would cause Alzheimer's or dementia in a human being. No wonder they're dying and collapsing. And the same with whales from the most remote places of the planet. 1,000 whales studied their tissue, which contained, in the report stated in these words, jaw-dropping levels of aluminum. All of us have this in us. It's contaminating the entire planet. So, again, the red flags keep going up, and this issue is simply the most direct assault on the entire web of life on the planet today, period.
Tim Spencer, you've been pretty quiet. I know you must have a question for Dane before we wrap up the show, sir.
And it's a really simple one for Dane. Dane, would it be a fair statement to say that human life on this planet depends on stopping geoengineering?
Yes. And it's important to add a caveat to that even if we stop the climate engineering insanity, we will have an immense amount of additional challenges to face on which our lives also depend. But first and foremost, the single most important factor of all is this issue. If we don't stop this issue, nothing else matters. Yes.
Understood, sir. Thank you.
On that note, if there's one last point to mention with your listeners, if they two huge arenas in which people need to be woken up: environmental groups and spiritual institutions, both of whom have been very disappointing in this effort so far. And in both cases, often it's because they're worried about their 501c3s, their nonprofits. Exactly. They don't want to talk about this issue. So that's extremely unfortunate. And in the case of the environmental groups, for example, when we have groups like 350.org, Bill McGibbon, that are being funded by the Rockefeller Foundation, well, it's no wonder they're silent on this issue, and that's truly the epitome of hypocrisy. And I care about the environment as much as any human on this planet, but it's inexcusable for these environmental groups to ignore this issue, as it is for the spiritual institutions. We're required to be good stewards of the planet, and simply being silent on this issue because you don't want to, quote, rock the boat or lose your 501 is the epitome of hypocrisy also. So in both cases, we need to work on these groups and help them to find their courage, if you will.
Dane, a minute and a half, Dane, to get out the message you want to everybody this morning.
Well, no matter how much research we do, without people like yourselves to help give it a voice, it wouldn't go anywhere. So I'm grateful for that, and I challenge everybody to please don't believe anything that was discussed here in the show. Investigate for yourself, find out that it's real, and prioritize accordingly. Let's all focus on the biggest, most important issue of all. If we can deal with this, then we can move on to other issues, but this is the one we have to focus on.
Absolutely. Any follow-up there, Steve? Steve?
There's so many things, but if I could say one thing, that is to all of your listeners, take Dane very seriously. This man has done a monumental amount of work that really could be the single most important thing we can address to save mankind. This planet is in serious trouble, and the government it's been bought out to hide that fact. We are responsible for our own destiny, and we'd better take command of it. So I would spread far and wide what this man is saying, and get to the business of saving our humanity.
Same gratitude to all of you. Again, it's a team effort for all of us.
Okay, Dane, thank you, sir. Steve and Tim, thank you, gentlemen. That's it for this show. We'll be back tomorrow morning. Get your medical supplies, your energy cleaner now while you can, your firearms and ammunition. Never ever give up your guns. Have a fun, safe, productive day. And God bless America.